So I'll jump in next, Kelly. So wins, I finished my Google Data Analytics certificate. And then also I met with the VSO today and submitted my, or finalized my BDD claim, which is an important date for me, or process for me personally. But so those are wins. Challenges, just this fellowship, working at kind of a medical IT company, it's a little hard to grasp why the team I'm on gets certain projects. It's not holding me up yet, but my boss gave me a project to do, and it's due like before my fellowship ends. So, you know, I kind of see this as a trial run. If I really want a job with them, then, you know, I need to kind of figure it out and knock it out of the park. So those are my wins and challenges.
Hey, what I wanted to touch on tonight was values. And the question is, why is that important? It's kind of a, that's this what I can't think of what the word they call it. It's not for you to answer, but you know, why is it important that we think about values? And I'm going to ask you 3 questions in a minute. I want you to have a piece of paper and I want you to write a few things down what come to you. So when you think about values, you know, 45% of military leave their first post-military job within 12 months. And the question is why? And there's a lot of different reasons why, right? It could be the role's not right, the leadership's not right, but I think a lot of it keeps coming back to values and culture. So right now, you know, MTR graduates are leaving their first job at the rate of 22.5%, as we've been tracking. So less than half of the standard, according to Syracuse University. So I want to ask you 3 questions. I want you to think about what things come out stories-wise, and then what maybe values that leads to. First question is, what makes, when you think back on your professional career, what made you happy? When you think about happy, it's like, what were you doing? What kind of job was it? What kind of project was it? Who were you working with? What was the end result? Take about 20 seconds and just jot a few thoughts down. And I want to see if anything comes to mind of that might be of value. You know, for me, when I would think about that, it's working in the environmental field. When I got in the Air Force, I jumped in, I started working with shop leads, setting up environmental programs that didn't exist, that we were trying to get the shops to comply with, and being able to work with them and convince them that this is the right thing to do. So teamwork popped out for me, collaboration, environmental sustainability popped out. So here's the second question. What made you proud? And here's again some questions. So what were you doing? You know, what was the result that made you proud? Were other people on that team that you were proud of, or was it by yourself? You know, when I think about myself, I was really proud because as I started various environmental staff assistance visits, I started recognizing people across the wing who were doing great stuff, and they started feeling proud about what they were doing. And we started doing wing awards for that. So it was really neat to get that buy-in from the base. So, you know, that sharing and development of other people became an issue for me of value. And I think the third one, so we had happy, we had proud. Third one is fulfilled. What made you fulfilled? Same kind of questions, you know, because it's 3 different emotions: happy, proud, fulfilled. So I'm curious if anybody wants to share a couple thoughts that have come through of the story and maybe a value that popped out.
I do, if I may.
Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead. Who's that?
Go ahead.
No, you got it. Pete, go.
Oh, okay. I cited my work long time ago, working in a NBC room. Basically, that's the room where they left all your gas mask and all your chemical equipment. Everybody dumped on the poor NBC guy I happened to be at. But they left you alone, and you were the technical expert. So I kind of like the recognition and the fact that I was left alone. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Hey, Don, I'll jump in because I'm that guilty party that doesn't meet your specs specifically, but was no longer at the company at 12 months, but officially resigned at a 13-month mark. And I took the job leading a warehouse because the ability to lead individuals, develop the leadership that I think is still critical inside the civilian workforce to solve problems, take initiative, and drive on. And so that made me happy to be able to build teams and support them in a way that could grow their capabilities, their resume, and their upward mobility as well. But, you know, kind of what you just talked about, what are the downfalls? Is the culture went sour, the boss went sour, and it broke down in that piece of it. And even though I had done my research inside the company ad nauseum for 45, 60 days with multiple individuals, the boss still changed at the last minute. The team changed in terms of the leadership at the last minute. And, you know, some of those other things that came out were not available at the time. And so I stay intrigued on, bottom line is what really causes that 12-month mark queue for most of us. And I know my perspective, so I continue to look forward to having a conversation with you and others about that same thing, about how do we break that and what do we need to do differently? Because I'm not even sure myself could have done nothing. But now I'm in the job doing the exact same thing, be able to lead people and you know, solve problems and move forward.
I don't have anything yet. I'm gonna have something I hope in the next month, because that's when the VA rating comes back, and I'm sure I'm gonna be well versed. Hopefully not looking like the red and Mike Sculler back there.
So Pete, let's, if you don't mind, Michael, let's explore that. Like you say, in a month versus now. Like, why is it in a month from now versus now?
It's because I got 2 more weeks of active duty, so then I won't know until after the second. I won't know until their decision.
Yeah, so the reason I say that is because this is an important topic for most of us, right? And how you prepare for that across the board. And that's kind of what I was kind of wondering about, Pete. If it's a problem in a spotlight here in a month from now, well, it's already too late in terms of what the BDD process is. And now you got to kind of go back and fix it. But what is the things that we can spotlight today that helps everybody that's going through that process?
You know what? I'll give you right back to you. I know I've said this before. I've done this. I did this back in '92 when, you know, basically they gave you like the ACAP and, you know, good luck with the Lucas Group recruiter and, you know, go out on your merry way. Mm-hmm. But now the process has been revitalized so much. Like, for example, I have my Hiring Our Heroes going into the first week, May 2nd. And that by the end of that first week, I already had like all my 4 VA appointments, stack one right on top of that. Dion gave me a lot of guidance going into that appointment. And I was like, okay, I'll just go and tell them everything I had. And even going back into myva.vet and looking into your records to see what they put in there, which I know I'm going to have some issues with. The behavioral health is going to be one. Possibly the tinnitus. So that's what I'm waiting on.
So if I could, I'm just going to put a couple things out there for everybody. Kelly, I think you're going through the process right now, right? And so if you got the process to go through, there's some things to consider. And Pete, you're spot on. But you control what gets submitted to the VA if you do it right. And so I recommend for anybody, get you a VSO. And if your gut says it doesn't feel right, you need to abandon that VSO and go find another one. If you served overseas in combat, you're automatically authorized with the Wounded Warrior Project. You're already automatically authorized to get one of their VSOs, and they're national VSOs, so they're trained a little bit different standard. State VSOs are kind of just, you know, they're collecting their paycheck in some areas, and that's you know, I'm probably talking about the bottom 10, 20%, but you find more of them that way. But find you a VSO that's willing to sit down with you and go line by line, and get all your medical records that's 6 months in advance. And there's a Military Disability Made Easy website. They do charge you now. I don't know what the policy is, but it's $20 a month. Hell, that's cheap insurance right there to be able to go for yourself and go line by line by line. I went through and looked at every disability, what the qualifiers were, what the requirements were, what the percentages are, and then I asked my questions with the VSO, and he probably took every bit of 80 hours with me in preparing my file, phone calls, Zooms, etc. And before he submitted it, he sent the entire file to me and said, this is what I'm submitting. Do you concur? And I agreed with it. And so I came back to 100%. But it's because we had that open communication and dialogue, and I utilized the VSO to their maximum. Military made easy, military disability made easy, to inform and get myself straight as well, along with collecting all my military records 6 months out and then having him review that and having him go through that. My first VSO, I fired them. Why? Because they sucked. They didn't have that communication. They didn't go through my listing of the stuff. And when I asked them a couple of questions, they weren't knowledgeable, even though they have a medical file. And so those are all key indicators that can help that piece out. And then the last thing, as I've talked with Matt about a few times, there's a new thing out with this new law that just passed with burn pits, right? Most people will go in there, and if you haven't, but go in there and register for the burn pit registry. But the second piece of that is print that thing out. Make a specific appointment during your BDEs as well as a part of that physical, and make that a part of your exam going into it up front. All those things will get you a higher percentage rating, or at a minimum, you'll be more informed of where you're going to be at, and there should be no surprises on the back end when you get your rating. Thanks for the time.